Today on the Pro Talk podcast, we're speaking with a true rarity in sports. That's right, you get to learn from a four-time Hall of Fame coach who's got 742 collegiate basketball victories. We're speaking with none other than legendary basketball coach, Coach Colby Tilley. Coach Tilley, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Looking forward to this.
Me too. Finally able to connect, and this is going to be fun.
Yep.
Well, I've known you since 1984 when I was a freshman at Truett McConnell. It was college then. Now it's university. And a lot of people know your coaching background, but don't know where you grew up and so forth. I know you're from North Carolina.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Pittsboro, North Carolina. It's about 15 miles from Chapel Hill. My mom and dad both worked at the at the university, so we were born and bred Tar Heel fans. I left there. I graduated from Appalachian State with my bachelor's degree, then went to Georgia Southern, got a master's at Georgia Southern, then also got a master's at Auburn Montgomery when I was coaching down at Auburn Montgomery.
Okay.
And then pretty much went from there.
So 2 masters doesn't equal PhD?
Well, whatever. I never used either one of them.
But is that one of those requirements that you had to have that to coach and teach in college?
Well, it's funny because I never really thought I would get into coaching. I was into recreation, and so my degree at Georgia Southern was in recreation administration. And then I got the job at Truett McConnell to teach phys ed.
Okay.
And so that's what I was doing, and I had never coached at that level before. I was only 25 years old, and I'd never coached at that level. So it's pretty interesting how it all panned out, really. I don't know if we have time to talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I was teaching the PE department, and the 2-person PE department, because Truett at that time was pretty small. The girls or the women's basketball coach was also working in the admissions department, and Joe Campbell. And so the president at the time of the university, Dr. Ronald Whiteman, he wanted Joe to go on the road full time to recruit for the school. So he had to find a girls basketball coach. So I can remember like it happened yesterday. He called me into the office, Dr. Whiteman did, and said, "Have you ever coached girls before?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, you're about to." Because at the time, they weren't going to hire somebody just to coach. So that's how I got into coaching women's basketball.
Wow.
And then, 40 years later,
Yeah.
I'd finally finished.
Now, when you were a kid, did you play many sports?
Yeah, in high school, it was small high school, single-A school. So you played all of football, basketball, and baseball, whatever was in season.
Sure.
So that's what we did for 4 years. Yeah.
Now, what was your favorite sport? Was it basketball?
No, football.
Really?
Football was my favorite. Yeah. Yeah. So basketball, what I say would be second. But football is nothing like the smell of green grass on Friday night.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite sport. Yeah.
What position
and probably
did you
had
play?
the most success in football than anything else.
Okay. What position did you play?
Well, back in those days, you went both ways. So I was a split end on offense and a defensive back on defense.
They're running the whole game.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, back in those days, you worked, all year long, just about, and you were going both ways. You got in shape pretty quick. So
that's great.
It was all fun.
And then you played basketball in the winter, and then you played baseball in the spring and summer.
Yeah.
How great was that?
It was good. The same guys played everything.
Yeah.
One or two different. We might have one or two playing baseball that didn't play anything else.
Yeah.
But the rest of us played all the sports. We'd have one or two in basketball that didn't play anything but basketball.
Yeah.
But we were a small school. There were 92 in our graduating class. So we got to know everybody, and it was just one big family. It was a lot of fun. I hear a lot of people didn't have a good experience in high school, but I had a great experience.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting you said football because you're left-handed and your mannerisms. I told my dad years ago that Coach Tilley reminds me of the legendary football coach Bill Walsh.
Yeah.
you just had that calm sense about you, and you're left-handed, and there's some resemblance there. So hope you take that as a compliment.
That's a compliment, yeah. And I had a lot of respect for your dad too. I'm going to have to say that.
Well,
Dean Carver.
The feeling's mutual there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tried hard to get you at Barry.
I remember a phone call he made one time, and if I was going to go anywhere, it would have been there. But I was too happy at Truett.
Yeah. Did you think that growing up playing all different sports, was that better or worse than today's infrastructure where kids are getting thrown into, you played football, you're playing football all year long, or you can't play anything else?
Well, nowadays, I've heard coaches say that college coaches say they like players who play more than one sport. But playing one sport, there's that tendency to burn out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, you play football and football season's over, then you've got personal trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball season's over, you got personal. It never ends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a proponent either way. I'm just saying that I think when playing multiple sports helps to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know when to start it and when to cut it off.
Yeah. Watch out for the burnout and all that.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah. I think a flip side of it, they lose their passion for what they're doing.
Yeah, but I remember Steph Curry, I read something one time, when the season's over, he immediately takes 2 weeks off.
Okay.
And then he cranks it back up again.
Yeah.
So even the best take time off. But 2 weeks is 2 weeks. But he also plays a lot of golf. So he's more than one.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to lose his touch in 2 weeks either. So
No.
Did you ever play an instrument in the band?
Well, that's if you want to call it that. I started with the clarinet, but I couldn't keep squeaking. I squeaked it all the time with that old wooden reed. And I remember we were in the 9th grade. Our band was going to play at the courthouse in Pittsburgh because there was a band. And I remember the band director telling me, just act like you're playing.
Right. Nobody will know.
No, because I couldn't. If I was trying to play, I'd have squeaked it like crazy. So that was the only time I gave that up for full-time sports.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So,
hey, going back to today's culture, I ask kids, hey, no, I play soccer. I can't. I'm like, well, why can't you do an instrument too? That would make.
Yeah.
So you really never thought about coaching at all until you got to Truett?
Well, not really. I mean, my high school football coach was also my basketball coach, Coach Adrian Allred. And he was like a father figure to me, but I never really thought seriously about coaching. I thought, well, might not be a bad thing to do. Because I went to college initially to be a history teacher. I wanted to teach history in high school and come back to my hometown. And then through the process, I don't know when it happened, but just through the process, I started thinking, well, that might not be too bad. At Truett, because I started, Gerald Cox was a men's coach at Truett, and I helped him a little bit, and I thought, this is not too bad. But as far as formal training,
sure,
other than high school, I never really, and then when I got the job of coaching, I spent a lot of time looking at film, talking to coaches, because I was learning. The other day, I was going through some old stuff. I've got the very first practice plan that I ever had as a coach at Truett. And I looked at it, and there's no way I would do the same practice plan today.
Yeah.
So that's how much it changes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to when you were playing as a kid, and then we're going to jump right back to coaching. That part of this podcast is for kids and adults to learn from other people's adversity. Do you remember a painful defeat that you had in any sport as a kid that you still remember this day?
Well, I do in high school. In our situation, my dad died when we were 3 years old. I have a twin brother, and he died when we were 3 in a wreck. And so my mom sent my brother and I to a military school in the 1st grade because she felt like we needed a male role model. So, and then she remarried when we were 6, and for some reason we moved a lot. And so we never could really get our feet planted into hardly anything. But in high school, I remember our last baseball game, we're in the playoffs. I'm playing center field, and two balls that were hit to me went right through my legs. and we wound up losing the game. And I felt like it was my fault. And it took a while to get over it, but you just do. Eventually, you just move on. And it was, like I say, toward the end of the school year, and everybody goes their separate ways at the end of the year. But that was probably the worst feeling I had from failing when I did that, because I felt like I let everybody down.
Sure. Yeah. Did
So
did anybody say anything encouraging to you after the game, or coach?
No.
Okay.
No. The baseball coach was different than my basketball and football coach, and he just, it was it. The game was over. He went his way, and we went our way, and pretty much it. So, but I think positive reinforcement, particularly today, is important. I don't think you should be overbearing with it. All these are my opinions, but I think a kid needs, particularly this day and time, needs to be positively and reinforced at times, because it's so easy for them to make excuses and get down. But at the same time, they need to be told the truth. You know, you can either have discipline is the key to everything, I think. And you either have the discipline or regret, one of the two. If you're disciplined, very few times do you have regrets. But a lot of times the regrets come from not being disciplined, because you're so easy to make mistakes and just move on. But if you're disciplined, it really cuts down and narrows down those times where you have to feel that you regret something. That's how I felt with players anyway.
Well, let me get into your coaching career. I love what you just said there, because I think it seems like, and we're going to get into what parents are doing these days, but it seems like there's a fear of hurting kids' feelings. So that truth, that puts them in the right place where they know where they are and what they should do.
Exactly. I think kids should be allowed to fail. I remember not too long ago hearing the coach at South Carolina, the women's basketball coach at South Carolina, said that too. If they're not allowed to fail, because failing is a part of life, not just sports. And if you're not allowed to fail, regroup, and do better in the sports, and what's going to happen in life when you get out, when you're through playing your sports and you get out in real life and you don't know how to handle failure? Parents don't want their kids to fail. And I don't want to paint a broad brush here, but parents don't want their kids to fail. They don't want them to feel failure. And I think parents are just really gotten, and there again, not all parents, there's some great parents who tell. I remember when the story about Michael Jordan, when he got cut from his high school basketball team and he went home, his mom said, well, you got to work harder to make the team next year. She didn't go to the AD. She didn't go to the coach. She just told him he's got to work harder.
Right.
And I remember I wasn't the greatest student in high school. I remember my freshman year, it's a year of adjustment. My freshman year, my dad had said, if you make anything below a C, whatever sport you're playing, you're going to have to quit. Well, my freshman year, the very first 6 weeks, I made a D in English, and I had to quit football. Now, if my dad if he had gone and convinced, again, keep in mind our school and our community was small. Everybody knew everybody. My dad could have gone to the teacher, Miss May, was the English teacher, and talked to her about, well, is there anything he can do but he didn't. He said, that's on you. You've got to bring it up. And so we experienced failure at a very early age from that standpoint. So, but in this day and time, it seems like parents just don't want their kids to fail. And I understand that. But at the same time, I saw a clip the other day, and I may be rambling here, but I saw a clip the other day, the middle school basketball game. And the referee blew the whistle, and these two little guys got face-to-face jawing at each other. Well, this mother comes out of the stands and runs across the floor. Now, I don't know whether she was getting on her son or getting on the other kid, but this is a parent running across the floor to take, should have never happened. So, it's a tough way. This is a tough time for kids. So,
well, I remember my dad took my high tops because I had a C+ in English. And I was so fortunate because I had to put the high tops in his closet, which meant I was off the basketball team until the next grade. Whatever it was, it had to be a B. So I think there was some compassion there. He gave me a little leeway. I didn't know that at the time. It was just mortifying that I had to tell my basketball coach. I was so lucky that there was a test the very next day after report cards, and I made like a B plus. And so my dad gave me my shoes back.
Well, I'm glad my suspension happened in the 9th grade and not the 11th or 12th grade.
Yeah.
Because that taught me then, and I graduated with a B average, which is not great, but it's not bad, you know. But had he talked his way into letting me play and all that, who knows what might have happened down the road. I might have just considered, well, all I got to do is just keep playing. Dad will take care of it for me.
Yeah. I think the initial pain, parents are afraid of that because the long-term gain is even greater.
Oh, no question about it. Yeah.
Well, let me get to some of your coaching qualifications or background. As I mentioned, you're a 4-time Hall of Famer. You were Northeast Georgia Hall of Fame, Kennesaw State University Hall of Fame, Auburn Montgomery Hall of Fame, and Truett McConnell University Hall of Fame. Not only Hall of Fame, but recently they named the basketball court. It's Colby Tilley Court. And I was just so proud to see that in the alumni page that they were doing that for you. And I saw your ceremony. I thought that was awesome.
Well, it was an honor, probably the biggest honor I've ever received in my profession. And it was because so many good players came through our program, so many good assistant coaches and community support. I mean, it was those first years at Truett were probably the most enjoyable coaching years I had because I was young. I was just getting started. We did have a lot of success. You know, we won the Nationals in '80, and it was a lot of fun. The players were just great to work with. The faculty was great. It was just a great time. And I mean, it was an honor for them to do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of embarrassed a little bit because that's just not me. But when it was all said and done, I was thankful for it.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was great how many different eras of players came back because, like you mentioned in your talk, that you were the luckiest man in the world to be surrounded by so many great people.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go through your resume at Truett, 76 through 85. Your record was 234 wins and 46 losses. That's an 83% winning percentage. That's pretty strong. You won 5 consecutive Georgia State championships, 4 national tournament appearances, and 79 and 80. That team wasn't too bad, just 36-2, and you were the national champs. And I know some of those players on that team that I got to see when they went to Barry and so forth. And you had some really, really good players. That's one heck of a team.
They were. Elaine Hickenbotham, she wasn't on the 80 team, but she was on the very first team that I coached. She went to Barry. Yeah. Monty Waters went to Barry. So it was some really good. But that 1980 team was a special team. And if it had not been for Dr. Whiteman, the president, we would have not been able to win. And I'll tell you, we had a player named Robin Hendricks from Kokomo, Indiana. She was supposed to go to Georgia State. But at the time, she didn't have the grades to get in Georgia State. So the coach calls me. He had just signed one of our players from the year before. He calls me, wants to know if we'll take her for a year. Well, I didn't have any money left. So I go to Dr. Whiteman and I tell him that. And he said, well, just bring her on. We'll make it work. Now, had he not done that, we would have had a very good team, but we would not have had a great team.
Yeah.
So that was the support I was talking about that we got through the community and through the faculty and staff. And so, yeah, and the players were so I keep saying back in those days, they would do whatever you asked them to do. They didn't question it. They were always on time. They were always, just doing what you asked them to do. And it's just like running sprints. I always try to get them not to beat the person next to, beat themselves. So if you can beat somebody 2 lengths instead of 1, beat them 2 lengths. And that was the attitude so many of them had back then. They would do whatever you asked them to do. Mm-hmm. So it was a great time those years. Like I say, I was young, and it was fun.
So if you didn't have Robin Hendricks, Martha Moss would have averaged 40 a game then, right?
Yeah, Martha.
Yeah.
And we had Martha. We had Tina Engel from North Carolina, and we had Stacy Bird from Gwinnett County.
Yeah.
All of them would have picked up the slack, but it was just something Robin was, when you're 6'3", and you cover a lot of space in the paint.
Sure.
And so she did. Yeah.
I saw the stats from that team, and Martha Moss averaged, her field goal percentage was like 51.3% from the field. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Martha being from Towns County, I mean, I always liked those. I like those country girls because they just had a strong and a hard work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And Martha came in from Towns, and she was a hard worker. And I mean, she's a super person too, but she was such a hard worker. And
yeah.
She made things happen. Yeah.
So I wanted to find out from a coaching perspective, do you remember after that was over, the day after, or the moment that you sat back down in your office at Truett and went, wow, do you remember that feeling that we're national champs? How's that hit you the day after?
Well, I can't remember the day after, but the night when it was over with, and that night it was just, I mean, it was a feeling that I'm thinking, this is pretty easy. I mean, well, when you're 20, I think I was 28 or maybe 29, and I guess it didn't really hit me what we had just done.
Mm-hmm.
I knew we'd won a national championship, but it just really didn't hit me. And then as time went on, I can't remember the next date, but I remember as time went on, it helped so much in other areas of basketball. Recruiting was a big plus, and it's just the feeling of, I wish I could say the feeling the next day was like I'm walking on clouds, but it really wasn't. I can't remember it. I'm sure I felt super when I got back on campus the next week and everybody's patting you on the back. I'm sure that was but I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, you were, let's see, 6-time Region 17 Coach of the Year. 1985, you're Atlanta Tip-Off Coach of the Year. February 1985, the fan base, we got written up, and you defended us. It was Gainesville. I think they were Gainesville College at the time. I remember the girls' team lost to Gainesville. I don't remember what happened. It seemed like some bad calls, but a bunch of us, because Gainesville is just right down the road from Truett. And we students that went to the game, we were really ticked off. And I remember before the game, we were painting our faces. A guy down the hall for me had 220-watt speakers. He had a pretty nice home stereo system, and he made, kids today don't know what this is, but it's cassette tapes. He made a basketball cassette tape. When your girls came out of the locker room, that music was pumping, and because of Gainesville being close by, it was basically sold out. But that gym at Truett, you remember that it was in a little mini dome, and we reached down behind the hoop, and I don't know where I think we stole this from somewhere in the Big East back in 95 or 85. Whenever the first basket was made in the men's Big East, I'm not sure what college started, but they would throw toilet paper out on the court. And so first bucket made, we were ready, man. We raided the utility closet. We all had a toilet. We threw toilet paper, which was stupid and classless, but funny. And you guys knew it was coming. But at the end of the game, the speakers were turned up and we rushed the floor and everybody was so happy because you guys beat Gainesville. And I remember the power going out and we're all on the floor and it's dark in there. And all of a sudden the emergency lights come on. And then the next day we hit the Gainesville paper. It said something like Truett students riot over victory over Gainesville, something ridiculous. But you defended us. You said, hey, these kids have done nothing wrong. They're just having good old fun here at the ball game.
Yeah, we did lots of things. At one time, what was popular was when the visiting teams' names were being announced as starters. The home fans would read newspapers. They put a newspaper up in their face.
Yeah.
Well, we did that. And I remember one year, again, it's Gainesville. You're talking about Gainesville. That was our arch rival at that time. Later on, it was Emmanuel. Emmanuel started the team and was very good. But early on, it was Gainesville. And I remember the Gainesville coach, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I egged it. The Gainesville coach at Christmas, we were at a Christmas tournament. And I guess I'm sitting 3 or 4 people away from him. And I heard him say, they must have been talking. Well, evidently they were talking about us because he said, yeah, they're undefeated, but they haven't played anybody yet. And we hadn't played Gainesville yet. So I get back to campus, and the week we're going to play Gainesville, I just put a bug in one of you guys' ears. I said, look, and I told him what the Gainesville coach had said. Well, they went up to Boney's grocery and they got all this meat wrapping paper, and they wrote in big letters, wrote the coach's name, comma, we still haven't played anybody yet. And they kept it rolled up. And then at the very end of the game, when it was very obvious we were going to win, they walked down the stairs from the upstairs part. They rolled out that paper, and it must have been the length, almost half the length of the court. And they just rolled it out and walked it around the court. That was fun too. All of you guys made it so much fun. I had something called Tilley's Six Man. I don't know if that was before you or after you. Maybe, but anyway, they all had on red shirts because that was Truett's color, and they had Tilley's Six Man on it. And they sat behind the basket, behind the goal.
Yeah.
And they caused a lot of ruckus. It was fun. You guys made it a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wore my red for Truett today. So even though Truett's now blue and gold, but
yeah.
You know, it's speaking of Truett, I remember bumping into you down at the pro tennis tournament, the old BB&T Open about 6 or 7 years ago. And we had a great conversation. Something I did not know. You said at the time, because not too many people were going to Truett McConnell Junior College at the time, of the shoestring budget, that you faculty members, like a week before we got there, you were painting our dorm room doors.
Yeah, one summer we painted we painted 2 dorms. About 5 or 6 of faculty members painted every room in there in the 2 dorms. We cut grass, we trimmed hedges. We did all those things because I remember, we only had something like maybe 300 or 400 students at the time. And the school relied on tuition, student tuition. Well, the summertime, there were hardly no students. So we'd have to do a lot of stuff that normally would have been paid for by outside sources. But there again, Rob, that's just something I don't know, it meant a lot to us.
Yeah.
We loved Truett. We wanted to make Truett look nice.
Yeah.
It's just something, and even today, I don't mean today right now, but even today, former students talk about the 2 years they were at Truett, how much it meant to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we did all that stuff. And you played tennis. And I guess the tennis coach at the time, who was that? Was that me or Rodney Fitzgerald?
It was Rodney Fitzgerald, Mr. Fitz. Wonderful man.
Rodney, great guy.
Yeah.
He probably knew more about tennis in one finger than I knew in both hands. I don't know. I was supposed to be the tennis coach, like before Rodney did it, and I didn't know much about it. I just drove the van around for the tennis players. But I was basketball, and they couldn't hire anybody to coach tennis. So
yeah, well, we weren't much of a money maker. I would have stayed 4 years at Truett if it was a 4-year school. I would have stayed, no doubt. And my dad wrote Rodney Fitzgerald a letter after I graduated. I transferred from Truett, played my last 2 years at Berry. And my dad sent me a copy of the letter that he wrote, because there's probably 15, 20 kids before me and my age and up that came to Berry from Truett. And my dad said, there's something about that Truett McConnell. There are more sharp kids that came from Truett to Berry. My dad said he was impressed with every one of them, including me. He said, he made a joke about it to Mr. Fitz and just said what a great experience it was. And it really was for me. And I got to Truett because the Young Harris coach who I had signed to play there got fired, and he was mad at the president. So he called Dr. Fitzgerald about me and some other recruit. And that's how we heard about Truett McConnell. So,
well, Rodney and Joe Campbell were the 2 main recruiters. Rodney took South Georgia because he was from South Georgia, and Joe took North Georgia because he was from the Gainesville area. And they did such a great job of recruiting basketball players for me. They'd leave out on Monday to go to all the schools. They'd come back in on Fridays, and they'd give me names of players they weren't sure about how good they were, but they'd give me names because they visited every basketball coach that they went to the schools they went to.
yeah.
And so they bring back names and that kind of thing. And So and they probably did the same thing for tennis. I don't know how. I mean, did you get recruited to come to Truett after Rodney got the letter from I guess Bob Nichols? I don't know who was coaching at the time, but
No, Bob Nichols was gone, but then he came back, and so it was the interim 3 or 4 years.
okay.
I like the coach. I went up there and I tried out at Young Harrison. They sent me a scholarship offer, and it was all but done. And then my dad said, "You won't believe this. I got a phone call today from Rodney Fitzgerald at Truett McConnell." And I thought, who the heck is Rodney Fitzgerald, and where in the world is Truett McConnell? I'm like, I don't know either, Dad. But I was up there the next week, and I hit with James Mullis, and James was very nice to me. He let me beat him. And the next week I went up and played against Tony Wright, and loved the place, spent the night up there, and it just felt like home. It was just something special about Truett, no doubt.
And I think it still is. Of course, I get up there from time to time, and it's still a great place.
Yeah.
But it's a lot bigger than it was when you and I were there.
It's great to see. Now, you get a phone call one day, I guess in 85. Do you remember the phone call? Somebody said, "Hey, we're starting a program at Auburn Montgomery, starting a program from scratch. We want you to do it." How does that hit you?
Well, I knew the athletic director, Larry Chapman. I had known him when I went to Georgia Southern. He was the men's basketball coach at Georgia Southern at the time, and I would go to some of their practices and sit in the stands and just watch them. And then I got to know him. But then he went from Georgia Southern to Auburn Montgomery. And so, but I kept in touch with him. And so I remember, I'm sitting in my office and he calls me and tells me that, "Hey, we're getting ready to start a program down here, a women's program down here. Would you be interested?" And of course, I had a world of respect for Coach Chapman. And I said, "Sure." So I go down there and interview, and they offer me the job. But I was totally happy at Truett. I could have stayed there my whole career, I guess. But I remember going down there for an interview, and they showed me where my office was going to be, Rob. And it was a room that had nothing but PE equipment in it. All 4 walls were painted a different color of green. And I'm thinking, the guy that's showing me around says, "Hey, don't worry about it. We'll have this fixed up for you when you get here." So in September, when I go in there, and the walls have been painted, all the equipment's gone, and there's a metal desk and a telephone sitting in the middle of that room, and that was it.
Get to work.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, what have I just done? I had left the comfort of Truett and all that for this.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I mean, I was very lucky too. That the first year all I did was recruit, make out a schedule, order equipment and uniforms. And the first team we had, the first team we had, 4 Truett students started. 4 of my former players at Truett McConnell came to AUM. And that first team, just to show you, that first team went to the national championship, to the national tournament, not the championship. Mm-hmm. And at the time, we were the first NAIA school to ever go to the national basketball tournament in its first year of existence. And I'm not saying that because of me. I'm saying that because of Lisa Samples and Rhonda Coker, Dina Stacks, Tracy Tipton. Those 4 players took us to that national tournament. So Truett was still there. It was Truett's tournament too, I guess, because they were there. But it turned out to be really good. As time went on, it turned out to be really good. It was a good experience to be down there. The community was great. We had a program. I had started an adoptive parent program for the players. Each player had either a family in the community or a family on staff. They had a family away from home, and that was a big help. So and that's where we recruited a lot of foreign players, and so the adoptive parent program really helped us out a lot. Mm-hmm. So, well, it was good.
You did pretty well there. 9 years, you were 218 wins and 74 losses, and so you won 74% of your games. And then you headed out to up the street from me, living here in Marietta. You went to Kennesaw State University for 17 years and only won 290 more games.
That was harder. The hard thing was going from NCAA Division II to Division I. It took us 3 years to get back on the winning side because we were playing a Division I schedule with Division II players.
Wow.
And that was before the so-called transfer portal and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So but it was okay. I mean, we all were in it together, and we worked hard, and when it went Division I, for me, it became more of a business than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, some of the fun had left it. And that was me. That wasn't the school or basketball. It was just me. It was, the players had changed. I had changed. So yeah, but probably 15 years were good. I probably played 2 years too long.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to walk away too. So
yeah.
Well,
When I finished,
go ahead.
I'm just saying, when I finished, I was really kind of burned out. But 7 weeks later, I was bored. And so I get a phone call. This again, if I can get this for you, I get a phone call from a coach in High Point, North Carolina, High Point University, which is an hour from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
She had just gotten a head coaching job. Her mother, Robin Hendricks, played for me.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that? She wanted to know would I be interested in an assistant coaching position. And I said, sure. So I go up there for 2 years. But after that, I had really had enough.
Yeah.
And so I came back here, and I just playing pickleball and working out. About all I did, travel. That's about it.
I think that's amazing because I would have some butterflies to call you. Hey, I'm calling this legend. You want to sit on the bench? And, but that's awesome that she called you to offer that.
Yeah, well, I feel like possibly, I don't know this for a fact, but this was her first head coaching job. And just maybe the athletic director said, hey, you probably need to get somebody on your staff that's got some experience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he said that, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I contributed somewhat. It was hard being an assistant coach, I'll tell you, but I enjoyed those 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to some of your coaching philosophies. I got a quote here, and I appreciate what you shared with me that you taught a coaching class. Was it basketball coaching class at Kennesaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sent me your notes, and I was just pouring over those the other night thinking, man, I wish I could have taken that course. That sounded fun. It's more than basketball. It's leadership and team building and talking about dealing with parents. But you said games are won at 2 different times, daily during practice, what a player does daily during practice sessions, and what a player does during the time away from practice.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of responsibility being part of our team. Again, the discipline comes in. In practice, you're pushing them. They're working hard. They're doing the offenses, the defenses, the presses, all the things you want them to do. But off the court, because if they're not disciplined off the court, they can hurt us. Because we did have, I could tell you one instance. You talk about failure, and I felt like I failed this player. I don't know what else I could have done, but she was at Kennesaw. She was our leading scorer, but she was always late for everything. And the players, what I would initially do, I'd make everybody run. We'd do suicides and stuff like that because she was late. And I could tell the other players were getting pretty upset about that. And you either have to decide you're going to save one and lose the team, or you're going to save the team and lose one. That's a tough decision to make. But the last time she was late for weightlifting, and so this was like on a Friday. So I called a Saturday morning practice, and of course an 8 o'clock Saturday morning practice, and they didn't like that. She was late for that. Well, I knew that was the end of it for her. So I dismissed her from, our leading scorer. She was a freshman. Our leading scorer made the all-freshman conference team, but I dismissed her. And her parents got involved, and the athletic director got involved and pretty much taken up for the parents, for the kid. But I couldn't think of another way what I could do to keep her and keep the other players too,
Mm-hmm.
because they were done. And then we had a road trip. Back in those days, you took on a conference. You played on Thursdays and Saturdays, so you had a middle of the Friday you had off. But so Saturday morning we had a shoot around. We get on the bus and we're going down, we're already headed to the gym, and somebody says, "Hey," and call the player's name. She's not here. I said, "What?" Because back in those, we had an odd number.
Yeah.
And every travel, a different player stayed by herself. Everybody else had roommates, but it rotated. Well, this particular time, it happened to be her turn to be by herself. And I know now that was a mistake. But anyway, she's late, and we're already on the way to the gym. Now, as a coach, do you go back and get her, or do you just go on to the gym? Well, we went back and got her. But the whole hour on our shoot around, she ran upstairs. She ran the whole time. She didn't practice or anything, didn't start. But all that was before I suspended her. So I think I failed her. I don't know whatever happened to her. And that's where I feel like there might have been something else I could do. I don't know. But I did everything I knew to do, and it just didn't work.
Well,
So
what's that quote? You can't change what you tolerate.
true. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
And so you never know, but I think that girl probably thanks you to this day, that something's probably changed in her life because of that.
Well, maybe. I don't know where she is, or I didn't keep up with her. She was from Florida. She went back to Florida.
Yeah.
So,
well, okay. You have 3 principles of success. One is do your best. And you mentioned that about doing the sprints, and it's not just to get by, but if you can sprint faster, why don't you? And I've heard so many coaches like Gino Auriemma talk about the con man who just gets by on the sprint. And then the next time he yells at them and they run just a little bit faster, and then finally raises his voice, and finally they're running as fast as they should have the first time. And then the coach is even more mad because and I love that you put in your about doing your best. That's not just on the court. It's also in the classroom. That I know personally, you look back and you go, that B should have been an A if I would have just put a little bit more effort towards it.
well, there again, you're trying to. I believe that sports is just the next step to what life's really like. So you want to give them responsibilities. You want to give them challenges. In my particular situation in basketball, that would lead into somewhere in life they're going to have to make a decision, either for themselves or for their family, for their kids. They're going to have to make a decision about, like, your dad taking your tennis shoes from you. And so I always push them to do the very best in the classroom. You're right. Why settle for a B when you can make an A? Don't do just enough to get by because that's what you can do. And there are a lot of players who are challenged and who do more than they're asked to do. Do what's right. That's the hardest thing, probably. Do what's right. Because you got them 2 hours a day, and that means 22 hours a day. They've got decisions and situations that they're put in that they've got to make the right decision for themselves and for the team. And young kids that are 17, 18, 19, peer pressure is something that's hard to deal with, but you just encourage them to, hey, do what's right, not for yourself, but for your team. You've chosen to be a part of this family, of this team. You got to do what's right so we can stay together, and then treat others like you want to be treated. That's just, I completely believe that. I mean, that's biblical,
right? Yeah. And that's your third principle there. And I love when you said be an encourager, not a discourager, that compliments go farther than complaints.
Yeah, it does. And if you get on somebody, I say get on. If you have to continually to correct a player, try to find time to explain to them. And then you have to know your players too. You can constantly correct or get on a player right there in practice in front of the rest of them. And others, you have to just bring them into your office and talk to them one-on-one. You have to know your players and how they respond, and then commitment and compromise. Those are two things too, that it's a gradual thing that they don't realize what's happening. You're either committed to something or you're compromising yourself to something. I remember Lou Holtz made a comment about when he was coaching at Notre Dame and the year they won the national championship. And he said, from that point on, I was just content to keep it where it was. I didn't try to get better. And I think that's true in anything that you're doing. Contentment sometimes is worse than anything because you just get content to be. You win a tennis match, and I always won the match. So the next day, might not practice as hard as you would have if you had gotten beat. So and compromise, and that's something that usually that happens when you're winning because you say I don't have to work as hard. I'm winning. Why should I have to? And there again, I don't think sometimes it's not something that you're thinking about. It's just there, and you just don't work as hard. But so I just tried to do those kind of things, teach players and students what they needed to do, what I felt like they needed to do to be successful after their college careers were over. And
right.
I'm still in touch with some of those players on the very first Truett teams I've had, and it's so much fun just talking to them and seeing what's happened to them. And not that I played a big part in it, but I'm just glad to see them being as successful as they have been. Of course, most of them are retired now.
Well, but what you said is so key that, you talk about discipline, and that I heard an amazing quote that success doesn't happen in a day, but it happens daily. And what you said in those 2 hours, that's the most important part, that foundation that a coach does, hoping that the next or the 2 hours and the next 22 hours, they don't screw it up.
Yep. And I tell the players too, like when we in practice, if they wouldn't cut off the baseline, I says, whatever you do outside of basketball, you're going to do inside of basketball. If you're going to work hard enough to cut off the baseline like you should, then when another obstacle that comes up off the court, you're going to do what you have to do. I had this thing where you couldn't walk on the grass. And that might sound pretty stupid, but anywhere we went, you couldn't walk on the grass. You had to find the sidewalk and walk on the sidewalk to the gym. Don't cut it, even though you could cut across on the grass and it would be closer to the gym. You couldn't do it. And 2 years ago, I had this one player, Jennifer Baker. She said, Coach Tilley, I remember you not letting us walk on the grass. And I said, well, do you know why? And she said, yeah. And said, we were just being disciplined.
Right.
We were doing what you told us to do. And so that, to most people, that sounds ridiculous. Why would you be like that? But it was just a teaching tool.
That's awesome.
Well, I said, if they want you to walk where you want to walk, they'd put a sidewalk there.
Yeah, it's called a sidewalk, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, we'd find any way we could to get up that hill to go to the cafeteria at Truett. There was that diagonal sidewalk, right?
Yeah. And I can remember Truett making the players run those library steps.
Okay.
When they were so tired, they had to run them up forwards, they had to run them up backwards. And, it'd be so much easier for them just to, after they got tired, just to kind of start walking.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't let them do it.
Nice.
No, you had to you put a clock, you put a stopwatch on everything. But those steps were, not long ago, I was over at Truett and I walked on the campus and I just walked up those steps. And I remembered, I thought to myself, boy, that's a long walk.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, there's some hills up there in good old Cleveland, Georgia.
Yeah.
And then when we complained that the mountains are great, except for in the springtime, early tennis days when the wind would come over that mountain and get down in that bowl where the courts were, it's like,
Yeah. Have you seen the new tennis courts they've built?
No, I haven't. I need to get up there. It looks pretty impressive.
Yeah. They're nice. I think there are 8 of them. They're really nice.
Yeah.
Nice courts.
I'm just so happy tennis is back.
Yeah, me too.
I've got something that you share with me. This is 15 things I've learned in 34 years of coaching. And if anybody wants a copy of this, just message me at the end of this and I'll get it to you. I just started a few of these. Every one of them is awesome, but just pertaining to the way just daily discipline. And I think as a parent, it's important. Number 1 is discipline is the foundation of success in any program. Number 4 says we coaches may be the only adults who will tell kids no these days. I think that's huge. Number 9, you said most parents, this is really revealing, most parents would rather see their child make an all-star team than their team win the state championship. These parents can't help it. Number 10, on a personal note, never allow yourself to be satisfied. And number 11, you said you should never stop learning, even up to the last day. I love that. Number 14, you said you cannot look the other way and ignore bad behavior. It must be dealt with, or you could harm your players for a lifetime. And the last one I started was number 15. You must always be aware of the influence you have on your players. Remind me of they don't remember what you said as much as you do.
Yeah. Those were put on paper really a long time ago. That was, I said, what was it, 15 years, 34 years of coaching? Well, that was 6 years before I finished, and I finished in 2012. So, but it was, a lot of those things were happening then. A lot of them had always been true. But parents today there's some really great parents, but you got parents who keep stats on their kid. And you got parents who want to talk to the coach about their kids' playing time. My daughter, I have a grandson he's a junior on his high school team, and they had this summer league going. And I was talking to her last night, and the night before they had a game, and she said, "Dad, I had to move away from the parents because all of them were hollering at the players, at their sons, and players telling them what to do, and you know that." They don't need, you got to think about this, Rob. You got a parent who's telling his kid what to do, which may be opposite what the coach is telling them to do. And then they get home and they hear it again from their dad, their mom, who they should have respect for and who they think a lot of. So they're going to do what their parents tell them to do. And you don't know what the parents are saying about the coaches. And so but that's just how it is. And again, I don't want to broad brush it because there's some great parents who say, look, the coach is coaching, let him coach. He's doing what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. But that's probably the biggest drawback now is that, and you can pick up a clip on YouTube anywhere and see a parent get in a fight with a referee or an umpire right during the game. So, I mean, what's happening? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know.
It's always struck me as something interesting that it'll come up here in about the next month or two, the Little League World Series. Those kids are 12. At the end of the day, they had a great summer. Nobody gives them a college scholarship. They're 12. I mean, okay, maybe there's been a handful of kids that go on and play upper level. How many of those actually even make their high school team? How many quit in the next 2 years? But the parents, it's their everything. And you feel for them. It's like, it's great that the kid's on ESPN, but he's 12 at the same time.
But it didn't used to be that way. When I was young, the high school coach in the community, he was well respected by parents. Parents never got on. I don't ever remember a parent getting on one of our coaches in high school about anything. But that's just changed so much. And well, you know how it is now with the transfer portal, with the NIL, mm-hmm. all that's changing. Mm-hmm. College sports is not what it used to be. I think I saw a stat, 1% of all kids playing their sport get to the majors, whatever sport it might be, something like that. Yeah. So they have to have, and they was talking about these kids that are getting all these $4 and $5 million to play college basketball mm-hmm. or football. Yeah. And say, hey, by the time they're 25, they're broke. Right. The money's gone. Money's gone. They have no degree. What are they going to do? Yeah. So that's just something that I'm glad I'm not coaching now. I probably wouldn't be very good at it. I wonder if that's the reason that Nick Saban got out and Bennett at Virginia got out. All those old guys that were getting out of it. Yeah. I wonder if that's why. I don't know.
I don't know. That's interesting. You mentioned about the number of players that makes it. I heard this when I was in junior high, that in the wintertime, your average Tuesday night in basketball season, if you added up all levels of play from Division III to Division I, that there's 250 ball games across the country. So that's 500 teams. one player is going to the NBA percentage-wise. And I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it's like, that's what your odds are.
Well, if that's what 50 teams, that means that's 250 players, and only one of them is going to go to the
Yeah.
NBA.
Yeah. Yep.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Right. Yep. Nuts.
But a lot again, sports are great for kids, and they can teach so much about life and about what you have to do to be successful. So, and there, usually there's obstacles you have to overcome as a player, as a coach. But that itself, that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
You learn through overcoming obstacles. You learn about certain things. So,
Well, learn from overcoming. I love that. It seems like we're in such a show me and look at me culture with social media, but also how many awards that are given out. And for instance, participation trophies. I'm sure you've seen it with your grandkids.
yeah, that goes back to the coaches. The coaches or whoever makes the decisions don't want to hurt players' feelings. Again, that goes back to to the thing about how everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a ribbon. So that takes away some of the need for players to work hard to achieve, because they know. I mean, they're going to get something because they don't want their feelings hurt. Whereas, again, you give. Let's say you give a best defensive player, you give a best offensive player, you give a most valuable player. Let's say you give 3 awards for a basketball team that's got 15 players. Well, I think that's great, because that means the other 12 players are going to have to work hard. If they want one of those 3, they're going to have to work hard to get it. So I guess I'm old school, Rob. I just feel like hard work is so important. And I don't believe in giving something to somebody who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So now there are people or coaches who disagree with that, and that's fine too. But that's just, and there's so much. I watch my grandson's team practice and play, and it's frustrating at times because they don't work hard. They don't work hard enough. Now, my grandson, he does. Now, I'm not saying that because he's a granddad, but he loves it. He puts a lot of time into it. But there are other players who just, if I were coaching that team, I might get fired because I just wouldn't put up with it. I guess the parents would probably go to the athletic director and say, "Hey, he's working them too hard.
Too hard.
I don't think he needs to work them that hard."
Yeah, but
anyway, that's
a successful person will tell you because of that hard work. Or when I ask about your defeat, I always love finding out from successful people about their defeats, how that hurt and motivated. And if it wasn't for that defeat, would they have worked that hard down the line?
Well, another something I learned, we were playing games for the championship season. And at the time, we had lost one game. By that time, we had lost to Anderson. And that again that's another story altogether. But we're at games, and we're up by 14 with like 5 minutes to go. So I put in what I called our second 5, which were not bad, but they couldn't score. They didn't. So I mean, after I think there were like 2 minutes to go, and we're only up something like, I don't know, 6, 7 points. Rob, I take them out. I put the starters back in, and they can't score. So we get outscored 15-0 in the last 5, 6 minutes, and that was a tough defeat to take. Because had I not made a wholesale substitution, we could have won that game. But I learned something from that I never did that again. I never made a wholesale substitution.
Oh, really?
So that's one of those deals where you always learn. Yeah. After every game, you learn.
Yeah.
So, but we went on, and it might have helped our team. I don't know. Of course, that was the year we went on to win the championship. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I took forwards.
Okay, so you lost that, but there's a message sent also that if I'm one of the starters and he yanks all 5 of us out, well, that's gut check time. That we don't want that to ever happen again. Bobby Knight was asked is there ever such a thing as a good loss? And I don't remember his quote, but it was pretty colorful. And he said no. But I tend to think that he did like that it put a fire under his team's tail to make them work harder, that loss.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that particular situation, though, the starters had played really good. Like I said, we had like a 15 point, I think it's either 14 or 15 point lead. They had played good. It was just the second team that didn't play well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember how I addressed that afterwards in the dressing room. I don't remember at all how I did that, but I wasn't one, and the players that coach would tell you, I wasn't one to holler and scream. I don't cuss, and so I never did that. So I'm sure I handled it in a Tilley way that I always handle things, and we just went on and next day of practice.
Yeah. Well,
So,
if I can share some insights, I also have some questions. I reached out, did a little scouting on some of your former players. No, it won't make you nervous here, but
I hope you reached out to the right ones.
oh well, the social media world's big, Coach, so you never know.
Yeah.
And I got some quotes from players that I've never heard of. Player reached out to player. So anyway, first question is, was it harder coaching the players or managing the parents?
In my situation, it was the players, because back in those days, the parents didn't give me. There were some parents from time to time, but the players were the ones that really had to keep working. I still remember, and I kept it for a long time. I got a 4-page letter from a parent. I had signed her daughter because I knew their family, and her daughter really wasn't a Division I player. But I got a 4-page letter from her mother, just laying into me, But that didn't happen very often. But the players were, working them I enjoyed working them and working hard and them responding and
Mm-hmm.
pushing them and making them do what they didn't think they could do.
Okay, it's funny you said pushing. This one player said he would ask us what we thought about things. I'd never had someone do that before. Same player said she remembered running down a dirt road in the dark for a preseason workout.
That was at Truett, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There was a road that went down behind the swimming pool. I forget the name of the road. Yeah, but that was one they were talking about.
Okay.
So, but that same, Truett kind of set up on a hill a little bit. So, in one of my phys ed classes, I would make as part of the physical fitness part of it, I would make them run that road.
Yeah.
Well, by the time they left the gym and got down to the main road, you couldn't see them. So I found out later some of them didn't run. Some of them got down to main road and stayed there until the others came back.
Oh, that's funny.
So I found that out later, but that was
because it had that curve and you went down, right? Yeah. Well, I remember walking up that after practice, tennis practice. You just hope one of your teammates drove there, because I'd come out of my dorm and the excitement of going to practice, and plus you're going downhill. It was then we walked back up to the dining hall too. So anyway, the same player said she remembers running 100 laps while dribbling for doing something or saying something he didn't like.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's extreme.
I don't doubt it, but I don't remember 100 laps.
Yeah, that's a bit much, I think, right?
But it could have been. But that would have been one of my early years where I didn't know better.
Yeah, at least they're working on their dribbling. All right, so I got one. She also said it was so special that a few of us meet for lunch a couple times a year. That was from our buddy Elaine. There's a question here from another player. It says, the treatment of men's programs, particularly at Auburn Montgomery and probably Kennesaw too, I'm guessing, versus the way that the ladies' programs were treated, like maybe kind of second class. Did that bother you, and how'd you deal with it?
I just knew that's how it was. Where I was, at Auburn Montgomery, the athletic director was also the men's basketball coach. And he made it clear that we had all the other teams. We had baseball, and baseball started the spring. We started basketball in the fall, and baseball started in the spring. So those two sports started from scratch at about the same time. And there were tennis teams. But I remember the basketball coach saying, look, we're the main sport, and you just got to deal with it. Life ain't fair, deal with it. So we dealt with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like I got everything I needed. I didn't feel like I was denied anything that I didn't want, but I never asked for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we got players that, like Auburn Montgomery was where we got so many foreign players, and I was never denied that for a lack of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't complain about that part of it. Now, true, it might have been. So I don't know what the men's basketball team had.
Yeah.
There again, like I told you, when Dr. Whiteman said, "Hey," when I wanted Robin Hendricks, and he said, "Well, just bring her on. We'll make it work." So I'm not sure I can wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
And they might have felt that way. I don't know.
Right.
And I might have said something when something happened during those times, and something I wanted maybe we didn't get. I might have made some kind of comment, and they fed off of that. I don't know.
Well, you had better resources than you had at Truett, that's for sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. But it wasn't because at Truett. It wasn't because they didn't want to give it to us. They just didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just made, every year for the first 4 or 5 years, that was when, I don't know if it might have been after you got there, but it used to be, we got out at Thanksgiving and didn't come back to school till January.
Right.
That was 6 weeks. Well, I thought that was too long to be away from basketball. So I would schedule a week-long trip to North Carolina, and we'd play like 4 or 5 games in that time span.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go out and sell ads, and in the Cleveland community, and the players themselves got ads from their hometowns, and we sold those ads and made the basketball book out of it. But we used that ad money to finance that trip. So we found ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
They never said, "No, we don't have money, you can't go." Yeah. It was like, "Well, you come up with the money, and you can do it." And so that's what we would do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they denied us. We just had to do certain things.
Yeah. Here's a quote. He used to have an agenda for every single practice we ever had. And there was a quote of the day as well. Those kind of things have stayed with us even as grown adults. He shared so much wisdom with us. There's another question. Do you ever think you would have preferred coaching men rather than women?
No. My personality was just women. I don't think I could have coached men. Not that men aren't great guys. I mean, my personality lent itself to coaching women more than it did men. Mm-hmm. I felt like, and I'd never have coached men, and really had no desire to.
Do you think NIL is negatively impacting college sports? That was another question.
I do. Yeah, I do. Definitely.
Do you think kids should even get paid?
See, that's where I really they get a full athletic scholarship. But it all started about 10 years ago. Well, I'll tell you what started it was the coaches getting paid so much money at that level. When you got the coaches making millions of dollars, then some people get involved with, they tell the players, "Well, the coaches are making all the money off your back. Don't you think you ought to get some of that?" Mm-hmm. So that started it. And it's just gotten, the NCAA is basically non-existent, in my opinion. It's just gotten totally out of hand. And what's going to happen if it doesn't change, in my opinion, there's going to be about 25 or 30 schools, maybe 50, that are going to break away from the NCAA and have their own league, because they're the only ones who can afford the $4 and $5 million to pay these players. And the rest of the teams are going to be under the NCAA umbrella, I guess. Mm-hmm. But when schools are getting outbid, now that everybody's getting involved, I just saw the other day, whether it's true or not, but this one player transferred from Iowa State to Kentucky, $6 million he's going to get this coming year. Now, if that's true, that's ridiculous. But that's where it's headed. And if something doesn't happen, I don't know how you stop it. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I wonder if college kids were given a stipend, if this would squash everything. If it would have never occurred to NIL and all that stuff, that if you were given $1,500 to $2,000 a month, because the NCAA will not let kids work. So a kid wants to take his girlfriend out for a pizza and he can't work. Where does he get the money just to live like a normal college student?
Right. So, I can go along with that.
Yeah.
I could do that. But,
yeah.
But, I think if they're going to get paid that kind of money, it'll never happen. But make them pay for their own education. Take away they don't need us.
Yeah, what do you need a scholarship for, right?
You don't need a scholarship when you're making $4 or $5 million.
Yeah.
But that'll never happen. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know Congress has got some stuff in the work. They're trying. Tommy Tuberville from Auburn, Alabama, he's trying to have a one-time transfer deal. Like, you got players now that transfer 3 and 4 times. They don't play for one school but 1 year.
Right. Yeah.
And how can you get a degree if you play for 3 or 4 different schools? How can you ever get a degree?
Right.
And that's one of those guys that's going to make $2 million his last year without a degree, and that money is going to be gone by the time he's 25. And he's not going to know how to handle stuff. He had all that money, no degree. He's broke. What does he do now?
Correct.
So I don't know where it's headed, but I'm against how it's being run now. I'm against it, but that's me.
Yeah.
There's probably 10 people to my 1 are for it. Yeah. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, the thought of it being a good business model, it's not a good business model that the rich billionaire pumps money into the football program. Well, he's not getting his ROI. He's not getting his national championship. So he doesn't pump in money 5 years from now. So what happens to your program? It was up when we could pay him, and now it's down because we can't pay him. We're not getting it. So I don't know. This is another question from one of your players. Do you think your coaching style would work with today's players?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would recruit players that I think would fit what I wanted to have done. It would be tougher. I have to admit, it would be tougher, but I think I think we could make it work.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be as easy as it was years ago.
Well, I think you could do it. All right. This is I got from one of your players. She sent me this. She said, he definitely was a John Wooden type of coach. He loved his players. He was concerned about every player as a person. He wanted the best for all his players. Said Colby did not lead by fear and intimidation, but he treated his players with respect, but firmness. He was the type of coach that made you want to run through a wall for him. I think what made his teams good and one of the main reasons he was successful wherever he went was for all the reasons given above. Plus, he always made it fun. The teams enjoyed being together, and we laughed a lot. And she also mentioned the trips to North Carolina at Christmas time. She said, I see a lot of programs now where all the joy of the game has been lost. His love for the Lord was also always on display, and this alone made all the difference. He is a living legend in every sense of the word, true legend in every sense of the word. That's wow. Yeah, I agree with her. One thing, it's funny, of all the players, I probably reached out to 6 or 7 players, and not one of them mentioned your whistle, because I've been at games where former players were behind the bench and you whistled, and I noticed as former players looked at you like, what's coach about to say?
Well, I never had a whistle in practice. I never with an actual whistle around my neck. When I whistled with 2 fingers.
Yeah.
And that would be in a game where I try to get their attention, because that was the best way to do it. Because, you get in a loud gym.
Yeah.
They can't hear you sometimes. But, yeah, like I say, I never blew a whistle, an actual whistle, ever. So I didn't think I needed to. I mean, in practice, the gym's quiet enough that you can say what you need to say. Even if you have to stop them, you say what you need to say, then you get back doing it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Did you have any? Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, when I learned how to whistle from my dad, when putting my 2 fingers together and whistle.
Okay.
So that's when I would do that. Sometimes I'd try it, nothing would come out.
Can you give us one real quick?
I don't know.
Get on the line. Here we go. All right, good. I like that. I never heard that when I took your volleyball course. But
I didn't have.
You didn't have to, right?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any particular game day rituals?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just always ready for the game to get started, but I never had. We'd have a pregame meal with I'd eat a pregame meal with the players. That'd be about the only thing we'd have that I would have as a ritual.
Okay.
Yeah.
After a tough game, when you lost, is there anything you did at home to decompress?
I would sit there and I'd replay the game, not the whole game, but I'd replay certain situations. I do that now. I'll look at some plays that when we were at Kennesaw State, for instance, and went to the national tournament, and I see some play. We had a timeout, and I set up certain plays that maybe could have worked or maybe didn't work. And I'm thinking, what else could we have done? Or why didn't I do that? So when I have those silent moments where I think about certain games and wonder why it didn't work or why I didn't call this or call that. But other than that, I didn't dwell on it too long. I do it. And the next day, our practices were structured. So they would come out early and like for 10 minutes and have what I call pre-practice, where the assistant coaches would work on post players and guards. And then we'd bring them into a huddle at midcourt and we'd discuss two things. Let's say we had a game the night before. We'd discuss that, and then we'd discuss today's practice, and then we'd have a quiet time where I would lead a prayer, and then we go into practice. So I never dwell on it a whole lot. I just relive a few minutes, a few plays, and move on.
How did you handle at the end of the season? Would you kind of mope for a couple of days in your office, or how soon was it on to the next season? Because it's got to be kind of a letdown. You're with these kids and we're like this for 9, 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, it would be a letdown, particularly if we didn't win the conference tournament or the region tournament and go to the national tournament, which happened. But there would be times we'd lose that last. And I can remember, again, at Truett, we're playing Emmanuel, which was one of the top teams in. Emmanuel had kind of replaced Gainesville, so it was Emmanuel and us. Emmanuel's playing the Cab South, and we're playing the Cab Central. And everyone who wins is going to go to the next night for the conference championship. Well, Emmanuel plays before us, and they lose to the Cab South. And then we're playing the Cab Central, who we had beat double digits, probably 25 or 30 during the regular season. And they beat us. That was probably one of the toughest losses I've had to deal with, because Emmanuel had just gotten beat. And we beat the Cab Central, then we played the Cab South, which was not even as good as the Cab Central.
Yeah.
And we're on our way. And I think our players saw that too. And I think I did. But we never could get it going, Rob, that night. We just could not get it going. And we got beat. So that stuck with me a long time. As you can I'm still talking about it now, so I can tell you that stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there again, you just move on. You get on to, then you get back to starting recruiting and that kind of thing, getting ready for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always try to take time off and do something, before. But at Truett, there again, I'm teaching classes. So once basketball season's over, I still got to go back and teach classes the next day or the next week.
Right.
And that really helped, because I always enjoyed being around students. They always kept me young and they always say funny stuff,
right,
and just stuff that they were just fun to be around. So that made the transition easier for me to move on.
Right. Did you have a coach or a good friend maybe another coach as a sounding board, whether it be a man or a woman that you talked to throughout the season?
No, that was pretty much everybody. It's almost like coaches, they're out on their own.
Yeah.
They want all. But we had a lot of coaching friends, but nothing that I would, there's nobody I would call after a loss and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this or something like that. Nah.
Okay.
But we had a lot of coaching friends.
Sure.
I mean, I'm still friends with the Emmanuel coach. He's like in his 40-something year coaching.
Wow.
And he and I are still good friends. And
okay.
So there's another coach that was coaching at Lincoln Memorial. We're good friends. So there's some friends out there that you just talking.
Yeah.
But the fun thing about coaching, Rob, once you get out of coaching, it's like you're out of that fraternity. You just, you just move on, and they keep coaching and you're just doing something else, which is okay.
Yeah. Did your wife ever say, hey, Colby, you're moping too much after a loss, shape up? And
Nah, she knew what I was like.
She just knew he was going to be quiet, right?
Yeah.
I don't see you as the type to come home and start slamming things. So, no. How many technicals did you get in your career? Do you remember?
I've been asked that from time to time. I can remember 3, but none of them were earned. One of them we were playing Auburn Montgomery, and we were playing at Talladega. And we had a player on our team from Talladega the year before. She transferred to, and we walk into their gym. She says, Coach, we're in trouble. I said, why? She said, see that referee over there? He calls all our home games last year. So we're starting the game, and we're playing somewhere toward the second half. And they're shooting a free throw, and our girl is on the free throw on the block. She's on rebound and block in case the ball's. Mm-hmm. Well, she's got a long braided ponytail. Well, the Talladega girl shoots her free throw, and her teammate who's standing beside our player, she grabs our girl's ponytail so she can't go get the rebound, and nothing's called. So referee's running back down the court. He's running in front of our bench. And I just said, didn't you see that? He blew his whistle and teed me up.
No way.
And I said, what's that for? He said, inciting a riot. And I said, look, there's nobody here in the gym. How can I incite a riot? You want another one? So that was it. So that was one I didn't deserve. There was another one down at Middle Georgia. The bench was there was folding chairs, and the chairs were on the front legs of the chair were on the floor because it just didn't have room. Well, I got up to walk to the end of our bench to put a sub in, and the play's on the other end of the floor, and I hear a whistle, and I turn around. Here comes official running. He's teeing me up for being on the court. And I said, I'm just going down to put my player in. He said, well, you're on the court. You're up. And I said, you have to be on the court. The bench is on the court. So that was another one I got I didn't deserve. But anyway, those things happen. But I've had referees. There were some, matter of fact, at the dedication or whatever, the naming of the court, I had a table of officials. Yeah, they were about four officials at that table who had called my games in the past, and they all talked about how they enjoyed coming doing our games because they knew that I was going to give them a good game and I wasn't going to get on their backs all the time.
Oh,
so but when you got officials taking their time out to come to that,
right?
It tells
that's
a little bit. Yeah.
Now, can you remember the maddest you've ever been as a coach?
Yeah, playing Gainesville. And Diane Barrett, nice lady. I mean, I say she's nice. She was a Gainesville coach at the time. And the game gets over. I forget, we got beat. And it was a close game at our place. And she comes over and she says, I can't remember what she said to me, but I had something in my hand, a clipboard, I think it was in my hand. And I forget what she said, but it just flew all over me. And I threw the clipboard all the way down our bench. And it was funny. And this guy, who's a good friend of mine from Cleveland, he comes down out of the stands. He says, hey, you need some help?
I'll take her out.
I don't know what he was going to do.
Really?
That was probably the maddest I've ever been. But well, another time I got mad at the players. That's when I was mad at the coach. I got mad at the players. I was at Kennesaw State, and we went down to Stetson to play, and we got beat down there. And we get on the bus, and there's some players in the very back of the bus laughing out loud and talking out loud. That made me mad. So that's 2 times I remember. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know.
I heard a story one time that I think there were 2 vans, and somebody said, take this exit, and you were in the second van, and you went up over the exit, and the girl goes, now get back on the freeway. So you guys got off the exit and went back on the freeway.
I was going up to Barry.
Yeah.
We were at Auburn Montgomery.
Was that Jama who pulled that stunt?
Yeah. I wasn't going to say her name.
That's okay. I used to work with her sister in the corporate world years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Jama.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, and that's another thing. I'll tell you how the Lord works. We would go through from Montgomery. We always had to go through Atlanta at busy time to play Shorter, to play Barry. And I remember saying, I'll never live in Atlanta. And I've been here 30 years.
Right. Welcome to Kennesaw.
So yeah, but that was James.
Yeah. Just go over this exit.
Yeah, that was a
I heard that, boy, Coach Tilley was mad. I'm like, I bet he was.
well. I was, you're structured. I was so structured to being somewhere at a certain time and doing certain things a certain way before we played.
Sure.
And I guess I was afraid we weren't going to make it to Barry in time to play. But that reminds me of that reminds me of a time when we were playing. This is, again, the national championship season. One of our trips to North Carolina, we were playing Mount Olive. Well, we were in two vans, and one van was heating up. So we get to Mount Olive, and I tell the guy driving the other van, I said, take this into town real quick and see what's wrong, what's causing us to heat up. Well, little did I know that our managers at the time, we had two managers, had gotten into it. They were mad at each other for something. I don't even remember what that was about. Well, the shoes that we were supposed to be putting on was in the van that went downtown. So we're having to warm up in our feet, our socks. And the van's not back yet. Referee comes over and he said, but we're going to have to start this game in 5 minutes. And he says, you're going to have to play within your socks. And so I thought, well, it just so happened just before the game started, the van comes back with the shoes and we put the shoes on.
Wow.
But the players are so structured. You probably, as a player, you probably had routines that you had worked out. And players are structured the same way. And we won the game, but it had been overtime against a bad team.
Sure.
Yeah, because it was just the whole thing was messed up. But that was one of those times.
That's hilarious.
It wasn't at the time.
All right. Did you have any favorite music you like to listen to when you needed to lift you up, or what's Coach Tilley jam to? Players want to find that out.
I can't remember who was popular back in those. I always liked the Four Seasons. I always liked country stuff. I can't remember. It's been so long. I can't remember. I know later on it was Shania Twain. She was one of my favorites. That was during the Kennesaw days, but I can't remember any popular song back in those days.
Okay. Who's your all-time favorite coach in any sport?
Dean Smith.
I kind of thought so. Oh.
Well, not only because he's from North Carolina, but he was just so inventive and innovative in the things that he did. And I did a lot of stuff when I'm in my younger years. I did a lot of stuff that he did, and the things that he stood for more than just basketball. His players, you hear them all the time talking about. He brought the first black player, Charlie Scott, into the ACC. He took him to church that weekend he was there. He took him to a restaurant, had been an all-white restaurant. So he did things like that. And he required his players, as freshmen, he required them to go to church unless they had a letter from their parents telling them they didn't have to go.
Wow.
So he did. I mean, he was my all-time favorite. Yeah. Bob, no stretch.
Yeah.
John Wooden, I liked what he did. He had his pyramid of success. So Smith.
Who's your all-time favorite athlete?
Well, I grew up in the 60s. So in baseball was Mickey Mantle. And of course, Michael Jordan, Carolina guy, and everybody. But before him, there was a guy named Bobby Jones, who probably nobody's heard of, played at North Carolina.
Played for the Sixers too, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Got his jersey. Sure. But he was just he's a super Christian guy. Matter of fact, the year he won the All Defensive Award, it was the Seagram 7 All Defensive Award or something, $10,000. And he gave it. He's from Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. He gave it to the Mecklenburg. That year they were voting on the anti-alcohol bill, and he gave it all to that committee, the anti-alcohol bill. So he gives the Seagram 7 award to the. So he was one of my favorites for a different reason, but from a pure athletic standpoint, I guess Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Billy Cunningham.
Yeah. I remember Bobby Jones. I think he was number 24 for the Sixers.
He was 24 for Carolina too.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember him being one of those silent guys. Being a Celtics fan, he was always one of those scary, quiet guys for the Sixers.
Yeah.
They had George McGinnis and, of course, Dr. J.
Well, he started with the Denver Nuggets.
Okay.
And then when the ABA and NBA came, but see, another thing about Bobby Jones, he was an epileptic.
Wow.
So he'd have to have medicine for his seizures to make sure he didn't have seizures.
Didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. But he was one of my favorites from that's just a personal standpoint.
Sure. Yeah.
But from an athletic standpoint, I guess Jordan.
Okay.
A lot of them were good players.
Yeah. Who's your all-time favorite team? Doesn't have to be basketball.
I'd have to say the 60s Yankees, because I was very impressionable back in those days. That's my teenage days. And, I can tell you the lineup just about still today.
Wow.
Bill Scar and Bobby Richardson, Tony Kubek, Cleet Boyer, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra's catching, Whitey Ford's pitching. I mean,
not bad.
I can't remember what I ate yesterday, but I can remember that.
That's right. Well, they won a few rings too.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So if the WNBA called said, Colby Tilley, we got a team for you, what are you saying?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm done with that. All of that.
Okay.
I'm 77 years old almost, and I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I like the freedom I have to just do whatever I want to do.
What if UNC said, hey, we got an advisory role for you on the bench? Twisting your arm now, huh?
Yeah, that might be something I'd think about. As long as I don't have to coach,
okay.
I might think about
There you go.
Yeah.
MJ said, I bought a team. I need an advisor. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite book?
Well, I've always been a big James Patterson guy. I like John Grisham when he writes. Of course, people, if you want to include the Bible, I guess that's got to be right there.
There you go.
But as far as, I don't want to think the Bible's not entertaining, but as far as entertainment, I'd say John Grisham and James Patterson.
Okay.
Anything that they write's a good book for me.
Yeah. Now, if I'm a young 20-year-old coach or 22-year-old coach, and I say, Coach Tilley, what's a good coaching book for me to help me?
Yeah. Well, this day and time with YouTube and all that, but I couldn't tell him a specific book. I don't think that would be good. Again, going back to my North Carolina roots, Dean Smith wrote some, The Carolina Way. Mm-hmm. He wrote some stuff that's really good. And there's a lot of books that have been written, but as far as if you want to learn the X's and O's, I would just say you either go to coaching clinics or you go to YouTube and because there's something that every day, all day long, you can find out certain plays, certain offenses, presses, anything you want to find.
Yeah. YouTube.
And I'm the kind of guy I got to see it. I can't just read it. I got to actually see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
YouTube would have been awesome as a kid, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah, it would have been had we had it then.
Yeah. Did you happen to, not to start a Duke Carolina rivalry here, but Coach K's book, Leading from the Heart, did you ever read that?
No, I've heard about it, but I haven't read it.
It's awesome. No. But he talked about one situation that I thought about that when I was reading your coaching notes, talking about a player being late. I forgot who it was, but they were on the bus. And of course, you're never late, but two players were late. They were messing around in the airport or whatever, or I don't know, in the lounge from the hotel, and they were late. And he said, I'm in the front seat, steam's coming out of my ears. He said, finally, these players decide to join us. And they quickly scooted past me and sat down the bus. And he said, we get in the locker room. And he told those two players to go outside. And then he chewed out the other 10. And he said, yeah, you're all happy because you're on time and you weren't the two that were late, but that's part of your family. You should have been asking me, can we go find those two because they're missing? I was like, wow, that's team building.
It is. That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Smith had this thing about being late for anything but being late for pregame meals. And there were these two players that were coming down the elevator and they were late, like a few minutes late. One of them was a starter, and he didn't start him. He set him out the number of minutes that he was late for the pregame meal. He set him out that long.
Smart.
So that's why they were great coaches, Coach K and Coach Smith, all of them, because they had discipline, they had rules, and they meant them. They didn't just have them on paper. They meant them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, goes back to that credibility. So next year and the year after that and after that, he'll do it.
Yeah.
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 Do you have one favorite quote you like to live by or worked for you as a coach?
Just like those three, do your best,
Yeah.
do what's right, work hard all the time. If you work hard, you're going to expect your players to work hard. If you just kind of go through the motions, and you're going to expect them to do the same thing. Or if not, you're not going to demand from them as much as you would. So I just say, no matter what you do, work hard, and be honest, do what's right.
Can't go wrong. Yeah.
If you live by that,
Yeah.
it'll help. That's for sure.
Well, you mentioned YouTube. This is going to be up on my YouTube channel in a couple of weeks. And how many kids are going to get more influence from Coach Tilley?
I don't know.
Yeah. I love it. I forgot who said it, but a coach/teacher affects eternity because you never can measure where their influence stops.
Right.
And that's part of what hopefully I'm doing here. And I love having conversations with coaches like you. Well,
just what you said about Coach K. I got this inbred hatred for Coach K from being from Chapel. We are all as Chapel Hill people are, but in all seriousness, what he had to say was, what you said that he said was really good. And I guarantee you, his players that he talked to, why didn't you do that? That stayed with them. And there's no telling of those 10, how many others have families now that have the same principle.
Yeah.
You're right. That was good. That was good what you said.
Well, and John Wooden talked about what we're a automobile. You're the driver, you're this, and you just might be a lug nut. But if we don't have that lug nut, the wheel doesn't stay intact, and everybody's got a part of driving this car. So,
right.
Yeah. Well,
everybody has a.
Go ahead.
And I just say everybody's got a role.
Yeah.
And they've got to play it, whether they like it or not. If they want to change it, then they got to work to change it.
Yeah. I forgot which NBA coach it was talking about that, how integral his second team was, and that he would fire up the second team to push the first team, even though they weren't getting much playing time. And he would congratulate them at the end of the game saying, our first team was great because you pushed them in practice. I thought, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, a couple notes I put down here, how discipline is key. And then you said discipline or regret. I think that you said kids need to be able to fail. What a great statement. In sports, it's the next step towards what life is like. And then you learn from overcoming. So I really look forward to going back to edit this because I always get to take some more notes when I go back and edit.
Well, I've enjoyed this. It's been good talking to you, reliving some of the past.
Yeah, some of those good old TMC days. Yeah. So maybe we'll start a trend and get some basketball fans throwing some TP on the court. Yeah,
I wish I had been a better tennis player, but I never was.
We hit one night at Truett. I remember that.
Well, I wasn't very good. I enjoy pickleball a whole lot better.
Okay, well, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Colby Tilley, 742 career wins and some more as an assistant coach. So I appreciate your time again. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it.
And for you out there, if you like this episode, please send it on to some friends of yours, people that you think would benefit from, and please push that subscription button as well as the notification bell. So till next time, make the most of your time and always hang tough.